What's going on, everybody? GoodMicWork Commentaries back at you with another edition of The One-Off. This is going to be your All In Chicago full show review for September 1st, 2018. I would first off like to sincerely apologize for taking so long to get up a review on this show. This show fell on Labor Day weekend, which for me personally in my life and my job is incredibly busy. And even with 3 months notice, 6 months notice, even a year's notice, it's almost impossible for me to be available to watch a pay-per-view and review one on a weekend like this as it happens. So unfortunately, it is now late Sunday night and I'm finally getting around to doing a review on this thing. And this video should hit YouTube sometime early Monday, and I'll definitely have that up before my Raw watch-along on Monday night. So thank you again to everyone who has been waiting for me to put up a review on the show, and I sincerely appreciate your patience. Before I start rolling through the results of the show, I would like to first off congratulate everybody, and I mean everybody, involved with this pay-per-view. I think, looking at this show, it was a complete and total success. I think it was a success from day one. I mean, the minute that Cody and the Bucks announced this show, which was, close to a year ago, I think the fans were on board from that moment. And this is not only, I'm not only commending the people involved with All In, I'm commending the fans as well, because this was a giant group effort by thousands of people. Everybody that worked or competed on this show deserves a ton of credit, whether you're a male or female competitor and you performed or competed in the ring during All In, whether you're on the production team, the ring crew, the marketing department, the booking committee, whatever your job was at All In, you deserve a ton of credit. And so did the fans, because had the fans not been on board from day one supporting this event, then all of this hard work would have been for nothing. So this was a really big and I think pivotal night in professional wrestling. This was proof positive that you can book a show that will rival the interest that fans have in WWE and will definitely get everyone around the wrestling world, WWE and elsewhere, to notice. That's 100% sure. Even WWE wrestlers were very much in support of the show. I saw several tweets and retweets from a lot of current WWE talent that are basically just wishing everybody well. And you had a lot of people at All In with WWE ties, with Ring of Honor ties, with Impact ties, with New Japan ties. It was a really nice, I think, just celebration of wrestling, and the entire weekend and the conventions and the Starcast and everything they did looked to be a complete and total success. I'm starting to regret now not going. I got the big email, I was offered a spot and a table and all that kind of stuff to be there, but to me, I didn't think I had a big enough audience to really pay that kind of money to set something up and have people come meet me. So I kind of opted out, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll go do something else instead, and that's why I chose to go to Survivor Series in November. But it looked like everybody had a blast. It looked like the weekend was a complete and total success, from the conventions and the appearances and the autograph signings that they did on Friday and Saturday, all the way through until main show time on Sunday. I just want to congratulate everybody involved, Cody, the Bucks, the staff, the crew of people that put the show together, and most importantly, the fans, because without them and without their support, like I said, this could have all been for nothing. Apparently, this show is going to be available on New Japan World, the replay. For those of you who watched the show, you did pay $40 to either stream this on the Fight TV network app or whatever on the internet, or you can order it through your local cable provider. The biggest regret I have not being available this weekend to watch this show is that I couldn't give these guys my money. I wanted so badly to sit at home and buy this pay-per-view and enjoy it and support, the show and support the cause, but because I wasn't home, I really had no reason to, because it was announced that New Japan World would be showing the event after it aired, and I'm a subscriber to New Japan World. As of right now on Sunday, the show is still not up there, so I don't know if this is going to be a several-day delay or what, but unfortunately it is not yet available on New Japan World. So I was finally able to take a look at it on Sunday afternoon, and I will be looking for it on New Japan World when it does appear there. And if they do release a DVD on this for any reason, I will definitely pick up a copy. But after watching it for the most part straight through, I skimmed through and fast-forwarded through very little of the show. I probably watched a good 80 or 85% of it, considering how short I am on time right now. I've got a very, very busy weekend, but I really wanted to sit back and try to relax and take in this show as best as possible. And I'll tell you, for somebody like me who does not watch a whole lot of Ring of Honor or New Japan or Impact or any independent promotion, I said this in my predictions video or in my preview video a couple of days ago in episode 513, that despite the fact that I'm not very knowledgeable in indie wrestling, I recognized and am familiar with almost everybody on this card. So they really went out there and booked the virtual who's who in independent wrestling. And you had guys with ties from everywhere, from the NWA, you had Ring of Honor, you had Impact, you had New Japan, you had all sorts of stuff going on. And this was, just from top to bottom, I think a really entertaining show, and one that I would put up there, with any WWE show that I've enjoyed. And when you look at kind of, alternative, kind of different type of pay-per-views that have a different feel from the standard WWE pay-per-view, and when you think of all of those type of pay-per-views, this one is right up there with an ECW One Night Stand, in my opinion, the 2005 version, of course. It reminded me of a lot of old-school TNA pay-per-views as well, and it had a few hints of 1990s ECW in there also. So I thought just the entire night, the feel of it, the atmosphere I just really enjoyed how it was presented. And I thought everybody, production-wise and everything, pulled this show off without a hitch. There were very few technical difficulties. I think there might have been one or two, but that was my big concern because they're going live on pay-per-view. So they really had to have plans in place to make sure that everything went well, because what if everybody that forked out their $40 to watch on pay-per-view, what if when the show was supposed to go live, it didn't go live? You'd have the fans flipping out, and everybody would want refunds, and everybody would probably get refunds. So this thing really wasn't going to be over, and it wasn't going to be a success until the pay-per-view officially ended and went off the air. So it was probably a very stressful 4 or 5 hours for everybody involved. It definitely would have been for me as a fan if I was watching this live. And after watching the show in its entirety, man, I really wish I would have been home to watch this and to live tweet or live stream my reaction, because it looked fun as hell. So let's start running through these results here. We're going to begin with the over-budget Battle Royal. This, of course, was billed as a title match opportunity for the winner. Whoever wins this match will get a shot at the Ring of Honor title held by Jay Lethal later on in the show. This was one of the big matches on the show where we were expecting a lot of potential surprises, because not every competitor was advertised for this. We didn't know who the 20 men were going to be, and there was a lot of rumors about Neville, because it was just announced or just released a couple of days ago that he is now free and clear from the WWE. He can show up and appear and wrestle anywhere in the world wherever he wants. So a lot of us felt that he was a shoo-in to show up at All In. They could call him last minute, book him for the show, have him make an appearance somewhere, and the Battle Royal would have been a good place for that, especially if he wins and goes on to face Lethal for the title later on in the night. There were a lot of CM Punk rumors as well, although CM Punk appearing in the Battle Royal to me would have been a surprise. I didn't really expect to see him here. I thought if CM Punk was going to show up, he would show up in the ring or show up in the crowd or maybe cut a promo. I didn't really see him being in a Battle Royal, and that's another reason why I really wish I would have been home to see this live, because I would have liked to know if I would have seen the Flip Gordon spot coming. Bully Ray was in the match, and right when the match kicks off, right when the bell rings, Bully Ray pulls out this masked luchador, this random guy who's not even announced, picks him up and puts him through a table on the outside of the ring, like power bombs him right through the table, and the dude is laid out cold for the entire match. So they go through the entire Battle Royal. A lot of really interesting names in this match as well, including Billy Gunn and Tommy Dreamer. Just really funny to see guys like this who are really at the end of their careers. Their careers are essentially over, and they're in there with some guys who are only starting out. And that's kind of why I like these type of indie shows, because you just get such a random variety of dudes all working together. It's just kind of a lot of fun to see as a fan. And I especially like the spot where all the talent is on the outside of the ring, except for Tommy Dreamer and Billy Gunn, who are inside the ring, and they bounce off the ropes and they go to make it look like they're going to do suicide dives onto the outside, but they stop and then they just climb through the ropes and jump down and start fighting everybody. So I really like that, kind of poking fun at their age and their abilities. But finally, we get to the end of the match. I think the last two guys in the ring are Bully Ray and Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana winds up getting eliminated. Bully Ray, it appears to have won the match. The crowd is kind of booing a little bit, but as soon as he's raising his hand in the air and celebrating, in comes that luchador from underneath the bottom rope. I think at that point, if the fans didn't realize what was going on, they definitely did then, and he pulls off the mask to reveal that it's Flip Gordon. The crowd pops huge, because this is a very long running angle. I don't know how long they've been doing this, on the independent circuit, 6 months, 9 months, maybe even as far back as a year. But Flip Gordon has been really trying to get himself booked at All In. He's been losing matches to get an opportunity to be on the show. He won over the Young Bucks, but apparently not Cody Rhodes, so he was just unable to get booked on the show. So we had a feeling if we weren't going to see a surprise, like a Neville, like a CM Punk, or like a Jericho in this match, Flip Gordon would probably find a way in there and win. And the fact that they did it this way, and the fans kind of saw it coming, but they kind of didn't, and it got a big reaction, and it got a big pop, and it was a nice payoff for a long-running angle. I thought everything was done brilliantly in this match, and I thought it was awesome. So he would wind up winning, eliminating Bully Ray, and he would get a title shot later on against Jay Lethal. Stephen Amell versus Christopher Daniels. And let me say, Stephen Amell, I didn't know he was really working this much as a professional wrestler. Last time I saw him was at SummerSlam a couple of years ago when he worked with Neville and Cody, but I'm going to give the guy a shit ton of credit. Wow. I mean, the match wasn't great. I mean, you watch it. I mean, Daniels is a legend, and he's a veteran, and he's definitely a guy to put in there with somebody that might not be as well trained and be able to carry him and help him through the match. But Stephen Amell didn't need much carrying and much helping out. He had the type of instincts and timing of a guy that's got a couple of years in the ring at least. He did not look out of place. He did not look lost. When you think of all the different celebrities to get in the ring and have matches, I can only think of a few that did any good. And he's one of them. He was okay at SummerSlam a couple of years too, but he was really good in this match. And it makes me think of Lawrence Taylor's performance in the main event of WrestleMania. You know, not bad for a guy that's never been in the ring. So if you're judging this match between two 20-year veterans, it's not that great. When you're judging this match considering one guy is a celebrity and has never really wrestled before, pretty damn good. And he did some pretty crazy spots. He was doing a lot of top rope moves. He dove off the top rope and landed onto Christopher Daniels through a table on the outside of the ring, which was just insane. And at the end of the day, Daniels did get the victory with the best moonsault ever and gave Stephen Amell a show of respect at the end of the match. The two men shook hands. I kind of thought we would still see one of them turn on the other, but it was a really nice kind of ending to that. I really enjoyed the handshake. Sometimes handshakes are out of place. In this situation, I liked it because it was basically Christopher Daniels endorsing, in a lot of ways, Stephen Amell and how well he actually performed in this environment, in this setting, in front of these fans, in a one-on-one match. Not too shabby, so thumbs up to both guys there. Didn't really enjoy the women's four-way. I do like Tessa Blanchard a lot, obviously. The name alone goes without saying there, and she did get the victory here, which was not surprising. She beat Chelsea Green, Britt Baker, and Madison Rayne in a four-way. It was botchy, but it wasn't horrible. So I definitely think women's wrestling right now in the world is best in WWE. That doesn't mean there's not great talent out there. There definitely is, but it wasn't really showcased as well as maybe it could have been in this match. And I think maybe this match was put on the show just so the women could have a presence, because I don't think All In would want any sort of controversy here where the fans are saying, oh, no women's matches or whatever. So that might have been the only reason they put this match on the card. So the girls worked hard. There were some fun moments and some good spots in that match, but again, not the greatest female four-way I've ever seen. Next up, in a match that I thought might be the main event, we had the NWA title on the line. Nick Aldis taking on Cody. And this match I loved. I fucking loved everything about it. It was well placed. I thought it came very early, and I'm like, wow, I thought this match would be near the end or maybe would close the show or whatever. But what we would see after this match, I'm actually glad that they put this match where it was, because it was just a lot of story. You weren't going to get the best in-ring match of the night out of these two guys, but you might get the best story. And I mentioned in my preview in my last podcast that I thought the match was pretty predictable. I was expecting Cody Rhodes to win here. I think he had to. Some people were disagreeing with me, citing reasons with his contract with Ring of Honor and things like that, but I don't really know anything about that. I was just looking on the surface here of a guy who was promoting his own show with a couple of his friends, and it's become a huge success. You know, his father is a former booker and, head guy in charge, in the NWA and WCW. He's a former world champion, and that belt that Cody is wrestling for, his father wore on 3 different occasions. And I thought it would just be so cool if he was able to win that belt, even though the lineage is not the same. I know it's not the exact same title that Dusty wore, but physically it is. And I still just have a very soft spot in my heart for that old NWA title, that 10 pounds of gold. And I thought the build up to this on YouTube, on NWA's YouTube channel, and all the different little promos and vignettes and spots and interviews they did leading up to this was very well done, very reminiscent of the old NWA days. And this match was presented in that way as well. Both guys had huge entourages with them. Cody Rhodes had Tommy Dreamer, he had DDP, he had his wife, he had his dog, all sorts of guys. Even Glacier, I believe, was out there, who who was helping train Cody Rhodes. Nick Aldis had a bunch of guys as well, including Tim Storm, the former champion who he beat for the title, I believe. And Earl Hebner was the referee for this thing. So I really liked the way the whole feel of it came off. And then the match itself was not bad. They had a weird spot on the outside where Cody did his top rope move only to get nailed from a punch by Nick Aldis, and he's kind of laying there unconscious on the outside of the ring, or not, maybe not unconscious, but he was definitely hurt. And Earl Hebner started throwing up the X spot, which he did a couple of times. And that prompted DDP to come out to the ring. DDP came to ringside and helped Cody Rhodes, tried to talk him back up and get him up. The referee, Earl, had abandoned the count by this point, so Cody wasn't counted out. So we got a little DDP appearance there. Cody, of course, was busted open, I think, from the spot, and the blood looked really good in his blonde hair. Eventually, rolls back in the ring, starts to fight back. He's trying to mount a comeback here and getting cut off at every pass. And then finally, they get to the finish, and holy shit, did this one touch my heart. They totally paid homage to SummerSlam 1992. Bret Hart and Bulldog did the exact same finish. Aldis went for a sunset flip, and Cody just grabbed his legs and fell forward, putting him in a pinning combination, and Earl counts the 1, 2, 3. So very good ending to that as well. It didn't need any sort of crazy sequence of moves. It didn't need 5 or 6 near falls before they finally get to the finish. It was just very old school. A lot of those old NWA matches and main events from back in the day, a lot of times they would end in small packages or roll-ups or surprise pins. And I love the celebration in the end. I mean, the minute that 3 count hit, I'm not that much of an emotional guy when I'm watching wrestling, but I was really happy for Cody. I mean, really happy. Dusty Rhodes, I've mentioned it before. Dusty Rhodes is my very first memory of professional wrestling ever. The very first flashbulb memory I have in my mind of professional wrestling is Dusty Rhodes challenging superstar Billy Graham for the WWE title in like 1978. So I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Dusty and the entire Rhodes family, and that includes his children. So the fact that Cody was able to win the belt here, you just have to know for him, that probably meant a lot. I mean, that's his dad's belt. So I know if I was in Cody's shoes, that would be a big night for me. My only regret here is I don't know if he was invited or maybe he couldn't come or he could come. I really wish that Dustin could have been there. I wish WWE would have said, yeah, Dustin, go ahead. Go be by your brother's side at his pay-per-view. You have our blessing. I don't know if WWE didn't want him there, or maybe he wasn't even invited, or maybe he never even planned to go. I don't know, but I think it would have been really cool had Dustin Rhodes been in the corner of Cody, along with everybody else that he had there. I do know that Goldust did tweet congratulations out to his brother, and a lot of people in WWE were tweeting about All In, and some people think they're going to get heat for that. No, they're not. They're all adults. Daniel Bryan or Charlotte or Dustin Rhodes wants to tweet something about All In. They have every fucking right in the world to do that, and WWE can go fuck themselves. But the only thing I think was missing in that is possibly Dustin's appearance. But aside from that, even though the match wasn't the best in-ring match we got of the night, I thought it told the most old school story, and for a guy like me, that's something that I can really appreciate about a match. And I might put the story in the moment and the emotion, that might be enough for me to give the nod as my favorite match of the night. I'm not saying it was the best match of the night. I'm just saying, me personally, I might have enjoyed this one the most. It's a tie between this one and another one, which I'll get to in a minute. I definitely know what my top 3 are, that's for sure. It's Cody and Nick Aldis, the one I'm going to talk about later on, and Adam Page versus Joey Janela. Goddamn, street fight? Are you kidding me? I mean, the whole night was like this, but this was probably the first match of the night where you were, legitimately scared for these wrestlers' lives. There was a couple of spots here where I thought Janela had died, especially the running powerbomb off the stage through the tables. It looked like Adam Page really struggled to get Janela up, and then he starts running with him, and he doesn't even give him a good launch. And he's got to fly far enough to clear the stairs that are set up on the ramp and land through the 2 tables that they have set up in the aisleway. And I think he only hit one of them. It was absolutely sick. They had a similar spot on the outside of the ring with the ladder. The finish was Adam Page, I believe, hitting his finisher from the top of the ladder through a couple of tables to get the pin. The match went around 20 minutes, I think, 20 or 21 minutes, and it was just brutal. It had that death match type of feel to it, and it lived up to every degree of that street fight moniker that they gave this match. And I think watching it, I thought that was going to be my favorite match of the night. I had just watched Cody Rhodes win the title, and then I watched this match in an exact opposite of the match that we saw prior. I mean, think of the ring psychology, and the story that was told in each of these 2 matches. polar fucking opposites, but I loved him almost equally as much. So hats off to Adam Page and Joey Janela for damn near killing themselves, and they wouldn't be the only two guys to damn near kill themselves on this pay-per-view. And the best part was the ending, because I'm going to plead ignorance here. I don't know a lot of the story between Adam Page and Joey Ryan. Apparently there was some sort of a murder, and a couple of items that played a role in this quote-unquote murder played a role in the match. They showed up in the match in the form of trash bags. I think some cursed boots were pulled out at one point, and a telephone. Don't know the significance of those, don't know the story there, but they clearly had something to do with whatever the history is between Adam Page and Joey Ryan. So after the match is over, we get some weird music, and we get some dick druids. Yes, you heard me right. Dick druids. Penis druids. Druids dressed as penises. Men dressed in big inflatable penis costumes. I don't know how the fuck you describe this, but about a dozen of these things come walking through the aisle. Very much like the Undertaker's druids would come out whenever the Undertaker would be resurrected or killed on WWE TV, depending on whatever goofy-ass storyline they were doing. The army of giant cocks come out to the aisleway and stand there, and then we get the resurrection of Joey Ryan. Joey Ryan comes out there complete with his mustache and his glasses and his jacket, and he's dancing down to the ring. Gets in the ring, beats the shit out of Adam Page, hits him with his dick finisher move. I don't even know what you call it, but, you know, the guy grabs his dick and then he spins him around and flips him over, and then he winds up hitting Page with a super kick. And then the dick druids gather up Page, gather up his lifeless body, lift him over their heads, and carry him away. So there you go. That's wrestling, folks. I'm not even upset one bit at this. I love it. That's why I love professional wrestling, because you're watching this and you're looking at it and you're saying, what the fuck is going on? Like, imagine, if you will, you know, we talk about this a lot when I discuss WWE pay-per-views and WWE segments and storylines. Imagine you're showing a friend who's never watched wrestling before. Imagine you're showing them this. What do you say to them? It's like showing them Mick Foley falling off the top of the cell. Just looking at that with no context, you're like, what is that all about? And when I can see something so fun like this incorporated into a show that has a lot of things that are serious and a lot of ups and downs and different types of emotions, that's when I think comedy serves its best purpose in wrestling. The problem with WWE is their timing is always off. Their shit is always so dumb and lame. Every now and then they can hit one right, but the comedy never seems to equally balance out the other emotions that you see on the show. This stuff I thought was perfect. It was perfectly placed, right dead center in the middle of the show, gave everybody a laugh, a chuckle, everybody popped. It furthered an angle at the same time, as crazy as that sounds, considering some of the words that have been coming out of my mouth for the past couple of minutes, like dick druids and shit like that. But I enjoyed every second of it, and it's a perfect example of what I've said many times over the years. When it comes to wrestling fans and when it comes to people like us, the cool thing about being a wrestling fan is that being a wrestling fan is kind of like knowing a secret that nobody else knows. You know what I mean? Because only we would understand that. Only we would be able to look at that and say, wow, there's actually a story behind this. If you have a spare 15 or 20 minutes, I could actually tell you about it. You know, and that's just what's great about professional wrestling, is that anybody else watching this who doesn't give a shit about wrestling or doesn't know anything about wrestling at all is not going to understand what the attraction is there. But we do. And, you know, it's just one of those things that got a big smile out of me, and I enjoyed every single fucking second of that match and the segment afterwards. Poor Jay Lethal and Flip Gordon had to follow the Dick Druid segment after this. They had a title match right after you saw giant inflatable dicks out at ringside. Right after that, it's time to get serious again when you put the Ring of Honor title on the line, Jay Lethal versus Flip Gordon. Now, they did do some backstage segments as well. They had one backstage with Lethal and Lanny Poffo, who was in the house. Poffo was at ringside for this. He was in the corner of Jay Lethal. He's kind of snapping in and out of his Jay Lethal and Black Machismo character, and he was kind of back into being the Macho Man or Black Machismo during the beginning of this match. And it looked like, I don't know the story on this, but judging from what he was wearing, that did look like authentic, real Macho Man gear. That looked like the outfit that Randy Savage wore probably around 1995, maybe in his early run with WCW. That looked to be the same jacket to me. I don't know what Lethal wears in Ring of Honor or on the Indies. I don't know what he even does with that stuff, but the outfit that he was wearing looked legit to me. So I thought that was really cool. A lot of Mega Power stuff in this match, too. A lot of teasing of the handshake. Jay Lethal and Lanny Poffo did the big Mega Powers handshake, and he even did it with Flip Gordon to start the match. A little show of respect there before they started competing. dominating. Poffo was even out there with his frisbees, old school leaping Lanny Poffo, tossing out the frisbees. He didn't read a poem, but it was cool to see him out there doing that. Lethal at one point even picked up Brandy in the ring, put her on his shoulder because she was in the corner of Flip Gordon, and he picked her up and held her up like Miss Elizabeth. And I love that Lethal is billed from Elizabeth, New Jersey. I fucking love that. And I got to give him credit as well because I'm a little bit more familiar with Jay Lethal. I've seen him wrestle a lot over the years, but man, has he really got that Macho Man style down. He is perfect. His mannerisms, everything he does. I was losing my mind when he was hitting the top rope elbows. He hit Flip Gordon with like 4 or 5 of them, kind of like Randy did to Hogan at WrestleMania 5. And even the way he comes off the ropes, the way he climbs up to the ropes, the way he jumps, the way he lands, the way he rolls over for the pin. Every single thing he does is incredibly accurate. I mean, I just don't get to see enough of Jay Lethal to appreciate his ability at mimicking Savage's mannerisms. Unbelievable. So hats off to him. Finally, winds up hitting his finisher, I believe, right? Lethal injection to get the win there, and a very valiant effort by Flip Gordon, and a very nice ending and a very fitting ending to what was a long-running angle. Next up, things would start to get nuts. It was just this match. I'm getting shivers just thinking about it. Kenny Omega versus Pentagon Jr. I don't know what it is with these guys, but they said to themselves backstage, hey, what do you want to do tonight? Let's go out there and break each other's necks. Cool. See you in the ring. I mean, it seemed like that was the conversation that took place over their Cracker Barrel catering that day. I mean, what else did they say to each other? Because all they did was go out there and hit each other with sick-ass, disgusting pile drivers and shit. And the worst one was the one that Penta delivered to Omega on the ring apron. And it just, the crown of Omega's head hit the ring apron, and it just made this whack, this thud. And it's just like, damn. And there was about 4 of those spots. And finally, I was not expecting Omega to lose here. I thought that he would win. He did finally wind up winning with his finisher. What is it? One-winged angel or something like that. And he was selling the arm, too, because his arm was kind of snapped and broken, and he had to kind of perform the move a little bit differently, but finally nailed it and pinned Penta and got the victory there. And then we would get another surprise after this. The lights would go out. And the lights would stay out for like a full minute. So again, much like the Battle Royal and the Adam Page match, I would have really liked to see this live, because when the lights went off, I would like to know what was going through my head. I would like to know if I was going to call what was about to happen. And after about a minute, they come back on, and looks like nothing is different in the ring. Kenny Omega is still laying there, kind of selling the arm. Penta is laid out from the loss, pretty much in the same position he was before. But then, as Omega has his back turned, Pentagon gets up, and you can tell he looks a little bit different, and then he attacks Omega from behind, and I think it took about 3 or 4 seconds, and the fans knew exactly what was going on, and wound up hitting Omega with a couple of code breakers, and then removed the mask to reveal that it's Chris Jericho. How fucking awesome is that? I mentioned in my last podcast that Jericho should make an appearance on this show, because why the fuck not? So the fact that he was there thrilled me to death, and he pulled off the mask and just beat the hell out of Omega. Now, Omega and Jericho are going to wrestle each other on Jericho's cruise, I believe, coming up next month. So that was a nice little way for them to promote that. I'm curious if Jericho even took a payday for this. I hope that he didn't. I hope that as much money as Jericho has, he told Cody and the Young Bucks that he doesn't want a dime, because this is free advertising and this is promotion for his match and his cruise when he faces Omega in a few weeks. So it's nice to see everybody come together and help each other out and help promote each other's shows. So Jericho being a surprise addition to the show, I thought was wonderful, and it was a cherry on top of a dessert that wasn't even done yet. And that's how awesome this fucking show was. Next up, I think I'm going to just barely give the nod to this match as my favorite of the night over Cody and Nick Aldis. Cody and Nick Aldis had the emotion. I was so happy for Cody, and I think my heart is with that match. But as far as the match that I appreciated the most, it was Marty Skirl versus Okada. It wasn't a gimmicky type of thing. It wasn't a street fight like Paige and Janela, and it wasn't the Mega Powers shit with Jay Lethal and Flip Gordon. This was an actual in-ring match without any sort of craziness. Or, I mean, it had craziness, but not any built-in craziness. And it turned out to go like 25 minutes, probably the longest match of the night and my favorite. They didn't need running power bombs off the stage through tables to get a rise out of the crowd. They didn't need throwback mega power handshakes to get the crowd to appreciate this match. This match was just fucking awesome. And I wasn't too familiar with Marty Skirl up until maybe 9 months ago, a year ago. Okada I've seen a little bit more of because I've always been a fan of his, and his just size and his presence I think is great. I would love to see him come into the WWE, but you know what they would do to that guy. I found myself appreciating the in-ring work here, probably ahead of every other match on the card. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm in the minority on that. You know, some of you might disagree with that and think that this match wasn't as good as some others. Whatever. That's your opinion. That's why it's my opinion. I'm not saying this was the best match of the night. I'm saying this was my favorite match of the night, and there's a big difference there. But the near falls is probably what I enjoyed the most because I think, 4, 5, 6 times, a good half a dozen times during this match, I thought it was over. Probably my favorite near fall was the umbrella spot when Skirl pulled out the umbrella that he always does and it said all in, and then he whacked Okada right across the head, nailed him with the Rainmaker, and almost pinned him with his own move. I thought that was the end. I really thought if Skirl would have gotten the victory there, that was going to be huge for his career, and I really thought the referee's hand was going to come down for that third time, but he wound up kicking out. And finally, Okada did win after a lot of back and forth after that spot. Okada wins emphatically with 2 back-to-back Rainmakers and pins aggressively Marty Skirl and ends that match. But I thought it was really good, and it's a shame that was one of the matches on the show. There was a few like this, but that was one of the matches I believe that was just put together for the purposes of All In. There was no story, there was no angle here, nothing building up to this match. It was just 2 guys that they put together, but now I think you can build on this, and I hope whatever these guys do, wherever their next stop is, that they can continue and maybe build something for a pay-per-view in New Japan. That's my hope there. But hats off to both of those guys. Amazing match, and probably my favorite match of the night. And that now brings us finally to the main event. The main event, I believe they were running short on time. This match, I think, only went 12 minutes, something like that, so it didn't last too long. It was a 6-man, Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi versus Rey Mysterio, Rey Fenix, and Bandito. And it was a great match, especially with Rey Mysterio. I cannot wait for him to come back into the WWE. I don't know what the hell is taking so long. We've heard rumors that he's on the verge of signing a contract, or maybe has signed a contract. He is still not there yet. He worked the All-In main event here and looked like $1 million fucking bucks. How old is Rey Mysterio? I'll tell you how old he looks. He looks like he's 19, and he performs like he's 19. And if he only has a few years left in the ring, can we please get him back into WWE, please, and have him do one more run, or just have something, that he can kind of cap off his career with before he winds up becoming too old or getting hurt or something like that. I really enjoyed just watching him work in this match and working with these guys, with the Bucks, and especially with Ibushi. The finish came pretty quick. I think it was the Young Bucks powerbomb moonsault spike pile driver thing finisher that they do. They wound up nailing that and getting the pin. And I think from what I read on the internet, it did look like this match was shaved down about 8 or 10 minutes, so it should have gone longer. But really, in the end, it was still a good match despite how short it was, and I thought it showcased everybody very well. And when you grade the entire pay-per-view, you gotta give this thing an A. And I'm not even one of those crazy indie fans, these anti-establishment, anti-WWE nut jobs that have such a hard-on for everything that's not WWE that sometimes it clouds their judgment. I'm truly looking at this, through, no bias whatsoever. This thing, I believe, holds up against any professional wrestling show of the last couple of years. It wasn't a perfect show by any means, but it was damn good, and everybody came together and worked their asses off to make this a success. And if they do in All In 2, it's going to be sold out in a matter of minutes, because this was the experiment. This was the trial run. This was to say, okay, can we do this? Will fans buy it? Can we promote and market and hold this show without any hiccups, without any technical difficulties, without any problems, no shows, drama, whatever? And they did. And they all came together wonderfully. A lot of good moments in the ring as well after Cody won the belt. Team Cody came in the ring to help him celebrate, had a nice moment with the fans after All In went off the air. There was a long speech in the ring. A lot of people spoke. The Bucks and Cody and a lot of guys picked up the mic, and everybody got in there and kind of celebrated with the fans. And it was just a really fun night of wrestling. And it was a night to celebrate wrestling and to say, see, if you care about wrestling and you love wrestling, you don't have WWE as your only option. There are things out there that you can watch. You can watch New Japan, you can watch Ring of Honor, and now you can watch independent shows that aren't just in front of 50 or 60 people inside of a high school gym. They are capable. There's enough talent out there to sell tickets and to sell pay-per-views on a WWE lifestyle scale. And I commend everybody involved. I think this was a big night for professional wrestling, and I think it's one that everybody's got to take notice of. And when you look back through time, as the years go on here, I think there's a really good chance that we are all going to look back at All In on September 1st, 2018 as a very important night in the history of professional wrestling. So congratulations to everybody involved. Congratulations to Cody for winning the NWA title. Couldn't be happier for every single person involved, including the fans who bought a ticket and the fans who paid for this thing on pay-per-view. It's one thing to do this as a multi-billion-dollar company like the WWE. It's another thing to do this for 3 independent wrestlers to kind of set this thing up on their own. So hats off to everybody. You should be proud. You should be very, very proud. So that's it for me. I'm going to get out of here. You guys let me know what you think of the show. Any spots in there that I missed or maybe got wrong or you'd like to correct me on, feel free, because like I said, I'm not that versed in independent wrestling, but I definitely enjoyed the shit out of the show. So I will catch you guys later on Monday night for my Monday Night Raw live watch along. Until then, peace.